So our next recipient, I mentioned at the beginning the significance of that draft class, and I think it's important to go through it again, and Mickey helped me out, though. But obviously Reggie in the first round, the second round pick, we actually traded down middle of that second round, 4 to 5 spots, and acquired Jeff Fain and selected Alabama's Roman Harper, and that was a pretty good round where we got 2 players. I don't know that we had a third round pick. I don't think we did. So day one ended, and we went to bed that night, kind of with the board listed as to how we're going to start the next day, and we went home with the idea we were going to select Owen Daniels, tight end from Wisconsin. He also, just ironically, happened to be from my hometown. So the morning starts. We're eating breakfast. We've got 1 pick here. Houston Texans are going to select, and we're going to be on the clock. I'm actually on the phone with Owen Daniel. We're talking. I'm saying, here in about 5 minutes, we're excited. And all of a sudden, you know how you're on the other end of caller ID anymore? Sometimes you can't hear it, but there was a time where you just felt like click. And he's like, 1 second, coach. And he came back. He said, Coach, you won't believe this. And he said, the Texans are going to draft me. And the odds of that happening, and you just sit in the draft room, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's 5 till 8 in the morning. All right. And this was a slam dunk. We were, there was only 1 team. And so, all right, we hung up. Sure enough, the Texans selected Owen Daniel. We traded down with the Philadelphia Eagles. We acquired Hollis Thomas. They drafted Max Jean Gillis. And then we selected out of Bloomsburg, Jari Evans. So sometimes, look, that was a win-win, really. The careers both players had, but a huge break for us in getting a fantastic starting guard, potentially Hall of Fame guard. And so 5th round, he's going to be an honorary member of this draft class because I don't know that he goes into our Hall of Fame. Certainly we'll invite him back because he lives here half the year. But Rob Ninkovich out of Purdue, we had Rob twice. And the last time I told him I thought he was going to be a long snapper, and then he went on to win 2 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots playing outside linebacker and basically having a fantastic career. So we didn't have the right vision. In the 6th round, we drafted the Fred Blitnikoff winner out of Oregon State. I believe his name was Mike Haas. And Mike was a real productive receiver, a player we had seen a lot on film, obviously was decorated. And then in the first of the 7th round selections, we took Zach Streif, and that leads us to our compensatory selection, Marques Colston. So in these draft meetings, it's easy to focus your energies on the first round. Typically the media, most of the fan base does. It's hard to speculate into the later rounds. And at that time, Curtis Johnson, our receiver coach, had seen his tape. Now, mind you, it was somewhat grainy. So every once in a while, you'll get a tape from a smaller school, and you'll try to, we spent a lot of time trying to locate the number, what socks is he wearing, something that stands out. And so CJ had a real strong, high opinion. Johnny Morton the same way, a high opinion. I know one of our area scouts did. And look, I'll be honest with you, you do look for traits. So we're not in that room just throwing darts at names in the 7th round. But he had these traits. Now, the route tree was limited. The offense he played in, you didn't get to see a lot of what we were going to see for the next however many years that he excelled here. In fact, we weren't going to see that at the rookie camp either. All right? That rookie camp, we were inside, outside, and this Mike Haas was catching a ton of balls. I mean, I'm telling you, playing the slot. And meanwhile, Marques, I don't know if it was the heat here or if it was his back. It was a combination of a few things. But between, Johnny Moe and CJ were like Drill Sergeant 1 and Drill Sergeant 2. I mean, the first person you hear at our practice in those, Joe Horn didn't know what to think, but it was Curtis Johnson. All right, and it became kind of legendary each year. It didn't matter who the receivers were. And so, man, I know there was a point. I heard Zach Streif's point last year in his speech, but I know there was this point with Marques where he was thinking, man, is this it? Am I in the NFL, and do I belong? But his spring, I would say, was just somewhat okay. The most amazing thing happened, though, throughout that summer and into training camp, and I would say the early weeks of training camp. Deuce, we were waiting on your knee. You were on a pitch count. Drew Brees, we were waiting on his shoulder. He was on a pitch count. All right? Reggie was doing Gatorade commercials, and he was rolling. He was doing outstanding. All right, Dante Stallworth, truth be known, was kind of bugging me a little bit, and he and I laugh about that to this point. But I mean, that was kind of a little bit, I would say, with some grief or some frustration, and all of a sudden, this Colston each day just keeps making pars and birdies, just keep putting practices together where, it goes from. I can remember the first deep in he caught on the grass field that was 60 yards long, and we had the arena ball blow up sidelines in case you went out of bounds. These things caught you. And I remember that first week and then that second week, and at some point into that first month of training camp feeling like, hey, we got our starting split end. We got our starting split end. And look, I said this already. I was ready to trade Dante Stallworth. All right? And again, he and I have a relationship now where it's easy for me to say that, but now it became much easier. And to see then the way this player played not only in his rookie year, but I'm telling you, it was the most consistent. You knew exactly what you were going to get. I can recall his first touchdown catch at Cleveland. If you were expecting a fun end zone dance or anything, you were just going to get a flip. In the pylon he caught against the Green Bay Packers, we were down 13-0. We came back and won that game in week 2 to lead up to Governor of the game you were referencing. And to watch the career he had in the I want to use the right word, I don't know if it's symbiotic relationship, where that cohesiveness he and Drew shared that was earned post-practice. It was earned throughout countless days at Millsaps. And I know Drew would say the same thing, but man, the consistency and the professionalism and knowing exactly what you were going to get week in and week out. And mind you, what you were going to get was the all-time leading receiver in the history of this organization. And he had excellent hands. Occasionally, on occasion, twice a year, he'd have not a hard drop, but an easy one that would just go thump. And it was somewhat unusual because it didn't happen often. His catch ratio was phenomenal. But when he would have one of these, like I would turn and I would want to give, I don't know. And so Marques was smart enough to where he would exit the field opposite of where I was always. And it became somewhat frustrating. Because I think we were on cords then, and you can actually see this take place in the Super Bowl. We ran a gap play action pass, deep 18-yard hook. The ball kind of came here, boom, on the ground, and then right away, like he just kind of moved across the 40-yard line, and I was down at the 30, the other 30, and then I would be like weaving through players to try to find them. That didn't happen often. He was very humble in how he played, very respected as a teammate, and again, as I mentioned with Reggie and I'm mentioning with him, I mean, I just, as a coach, it was, you get 3 years the first time coaches. You have to do something in 3 years. I remember telling our team this, and these guys might remember this, history, or what we call that term we use for culture, I referenced the Steelers. And I said, you guys would consider this organization one that has winning ways. And yet, if you looked at 1970, 71, 72, and Chuck Noll was there, there were some lean seasons and prior to that. And so very quickly, what we know, or what I grew up with as an organization that became one of a winning culture, a winning tradition, happened not over 40 years, but happened over 2 or 3 really good, outstanding draft classes. And man, they made that change, and we referenced that at that point. And so to be able to visit with some of these players now, and to personally thank these players now, because for a young coach, there's certain breaks you need. And man, there are a lot of talented players that don't end up in the right system, that we never hear a lot about their careers. And I think there are a lot of talented coaches that so too end up maybe in not the right situation, and we never get to hear about their successes. And I feel like a lot of things went in our direction. And so it's with great honor that I'm taking up some of Marques' time. He asked me, he said, could you go 5 into mine? To present Marques Colston into the Saints Hall of Fame.
I mean, I think you guys know at this point, time is definitely not going to be it's not going to be a challenge for me to really fill in the gap. But Sean, I really appreciate really all of those words. You know, over our 10 years together, can't say I heard too many words, you know, that were really that kind and that but it's truly an honor to be here and really share the stage with these 3 extraordinary people, to be a part of this extraordinary organization that, you know, has become, you know, a second family, and you know, to really be able to have this opportunity to look back on the 10 years that I spent here. And it's just when you come in the league as a 7th round pick, you know, something like this really isn't on your radar. You know, you're kind of in survival mode day in and day out, and you're hoping that the mindset is really, you're hoping that you did enough that day to keep your job. And you know, Sean referenced my rookie minicamp on numerous occasions, but and I think it really taught me a couple of different things. You know, one, you know, I had never been to New Orleans prior to getting drafted here. It always been a football fan since I was, you know, 4 or 5 years old, and you know, some of that history that Sean referenced, I mean, I'd seen it and you know, watched it growing up. You know, so when you get drafted in the 7th round, one, you're not really super excited to still be on the board. You're really not super excited to go to a 3-13 team. You know, for me, I was, you know, 2 or 3 picks away from, you know, being able to find what I thought would be the best destination to go and try to make a roster as a free agent. And, you know, having the ability to get drafted here and coming down here as a 22-year-old, never been into New Orleans, and, you know, just seeing the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, you know, Reggie kind of touched on it. You instantly feel like, you know, this is bigger than football. You know, and the opportunity to get into training camp, you know, continue to fight for a job every day, you know, be around guys like Deuce and be around guys like Joe, and really be around guys like Reggie, who, you know, from across the country, you know, watched and admired. I mean, he's probably the best college football player I'd ever seen. So you get into a locker room with guys like that, and you know you have an opportunity to really go out and fight every day. You know, that's really what this team and this foundation of this team has really been about since 2006. You know, I had the pleasure to come down and support Pierre Thomas and Lance Moore last year, as, you know, into the Saints Hall of Fame as undrafted free agents. And what you quickly realize is that the opportunity to come and play at this organization, the one thing that you're going to get is an opportunity to show what you can do. And, you know, I'm obviously, you know, for forever grateful, forever indebted to this organization for getting that opportunity. The Bentons, Mr. Loomis, the rest of the front office, coaching staff, you know, just the opportunity to go out and compete every day on a, you know, in a fair playing field. I mean, that's all you can ask for as a competitor. And, you know, I really took a lot of pride in, you know, competing every day and really being a teammate that can be depended upon, being someone that you know exactly what you're going to get every single day, day in, day out. You know, even in the dog days of Millsaps, you know, that's what the job required. And, you know, just truly humbled to be on this stage, truly humbled to be a part of this great Hall of Fame with so many other great players. And, you know, just truly, you guys can probably believe this, really at a loss of words. So thank you to the Saints organization. Thank you to everyone that's a part of this decision-making process. And look forward to seeing the rest of this 06 class, you know, here in years to come.